Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Catalyst webinar series presented by the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA. Catalyst webinar series is a bi-weekly educational platform for creating success and change in your club and career. We're very excited to have Michael Lee, the Senior Manager of Government Affairs for the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America. Michael joined the GCSAA in 2016, manages state and local affairs with strong focus on grassroots management and advocacy for our industry. Prior to joining the GCSAA, Lee worked for 8 years under State Senator Jim Inhofe in his home state of Oklahoma. Good morning, Michael. Thanks for joining us this morning on the Catalyst webinar.
Hey, John, thanks for having me. It's so good to be with you.
Indeed it is. So political advocacy is kind of the language of Greek to a lot of us PGA members. So why don't you explain a little bit about our partnership, our collaboration, and what we're doing and what advocacy is all about and what the benefits of the collaboration is really all about.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, what we're hoping to do through this collaboration is translate that Greek into English for all the PGA members across the country that want to get involved in advocacy and see the value in it and the important role that it plays in the golf industry and in the association world. Certainly. So you gave a good background on me there, but one of the primary things that I do at the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America is manage our Grassroots Ambassadors program, which we've had a lot of success with. We just celebrated our 10-year anniversary mark with that program. It's hard to believe it started back in the summer of 2014 and has grown to over 570 GCSAA members currently serving in it nationwide. And so the whole goal of that program was to, pair our members who are participating in the program with one of the members of Congress that represents them. So either their one House member or one of their two United States senators. And the whole goal is to build a relationship there with that congressional office between the office and the golf course superintendent to just better educate that member of Congress and their staff on issues that are impacting the golf course management industry. There's a lot of ways in which you can advocate or communicate with a congressional office or any of your elected officials, be they mayor at the local level or governor's office, what have you. You can email and sit and make phone calls and do all these things all day long, but really the best way to cut through is by building a relationship and getting to know that lawmaker and their staff personally. Being in their Rolodex and someone that they can call up and depend on in the district if there's ever a question about something they're considering, a bill or a new regulation that's being proposed that might impact the industry in some way. So once you have that relationship in place, it's a lot easier to solve some of those difficult public policy matters. That's what we focus on with the Grassroots Ambassador program. And thankfully, a lot of the golf industry has seen that and seen the success and wanted to do something similar. So we were really excited when the PGA of America came to us and expressed, a desire to have something similar. And they asked if it was something that we could help them build. We jumped at the opportunity. In a lot of ways, the PGA of America and GCSAA are very similar organizations. PGA of America is a little bit bigger in size from a member standpoint, but we're pretty close. And at the end of the day, we both have members that work at the golf course and provide a product to the public that is important for us to continue to maintain, preserve, promote, and just get more people involved in the game ultimately. And so it's a nice partnership. PGA has been growing their participation in events like National Golf Day in recent years. And this is just the logical next step to build a grassroots program. And we started it in Southern California with the Southern Cal section. We can talk about why that was identified as a great place to start. But it really has been, and I look forward to talking about what we've achieved over the past year on the webinar today.
Well, fantastic, Michael. Why don't you take us through our slides and we'll interject with some questions along the way. And it's all yours.
That sounds great. So I put together a few slides just to sort of give some visual aid to the conversation that we wanted to have. So, in starting this program, you kind of first look at, okay, well, who are the members of Congress that we want to target and who's going to be involved from a section standpoint. And so in Southern California, there's about 25 or 26 congressional districts, which is a tremendous amount. California has more congressional districts than any other state in the country. In total, there's 52 districts in California. About half of those are down in Southern California, specifically in the Los Angeles and San Diego areas, and then of course some in the Valley as well. But the bulk of them are in those high population areas. And so to date, we've had about 15 Southern Cal PGA members join the program and get involved with outreach to these congressional offices. That's resulted in at least 8 either virtual or in-person meetings by my count. Now that's all happened really within the past probably 4 to 6 months. We kind of kicked off the program with a training event there at the office in Ontario back in April. And then a month or so after that began outreach to some of these offices. So we've made some good headway in a pretty short amount of time. Of the ones you see on the screen there, I know that there have been meetings, mostly in person, which by the way is just fantastic. I mean, coming out of COVID, everyone kind of got used to doing this virtual thing, and that's fine and it works. But really having that in-person interaction, I think is key and is more productive. You can have a much better conversation with the staff member or with the member of Congress if you're meeting in person, showing them the golf property and really able to talk about the benefit to the community that a golf course is. Again, we'll get into all those reasons and some of those benefits and talking points that we like to use to educate lawmakers. But I mentioned
Michael, that certainly is true. And I met in person with an assistant of Miss Napolitano's, and I got a question for you. You know, we had a great meeting and we're able to make that connection, but then Napolitano was not reelected. What happens in this case?
Right. So that was one of the things that we'll get into, which is that, this is going to be sort of an ongoing effort, because in electoral politics, you do have people come and go, sometimes quite often, sometimes not so often. But Napolitano, after a long career in Congress, is not running for reelection in this year. So starting in 2025, you'll have a new member of Congress there representing you, John, in the, gosh, my eyes are so bad, but what does that say on the screen? The 32nd district, I believe, there. So, what I always tell people— 31st. I'm sorry. So what I tell people want to get involved, but then sort of get frustrated that, well, you put in work to connect with this office, and now the member either didn't get reelected or they're not running for reelection. That's okay. There's going to be someone new in that district, and look, you've now got some practice under your belt, right? So when you reach out next time to the new member of Congress, it won't be your first time doing it, and you might be a little bit more comfortable, requesting that meeting or pursuing that conversation with them.
Because a big part of that meeting was the connection that was made with the representative from her office. Very often times when the seat changes, the support staff changes as well.
That can certainly be the case. Sometimes you do get some tie over from the previous member of Congress if the new one, wants to keep on experienced staff or needs help building relationships in the district that previous staff may have already had. You can get some of that, but that's okay. Even if it's a new staff member, it's a fresh opportunity for you to get in front of them. And look, especially when a member of Congress is new, they're pretty eager to impress, to say yes to a meeting, right? They're looking to establish themselves in that district. And the best way to do it is to really get to know your constituents and the various industries and associations, for example, that are within the district. So I know that it can be a little bit frustrating, but just look at it as a fresh start with a new member of Congress that hopefully is impressionable. I think sometimes the longer the member of Congress is in office, they kind of get ingrained and maybe become less responsive to their constituents. So with a new member of Congress, you've really got a fresh opportunity to be a contact, to build that relationship, and to have somebody that you can reach out to, and vice versa. So I appreciate you bringing that question up, because it is one that I do get. Besides the Napolitano meeting, I know that we've met with Carbajal, Congressman Schiff, who's now running for Senate. So, there's another one that's going to have a new member of Congress moving into next year. Congresswoman Torres. We'll talk a lot about that meeting that happened at Los Serranos. She's been a really great connection in the program so far. Congressman Robert Garcia in the 42nd district. There was a good meeting with his office, and one of the benefits that I wanted to convey is even if you are meeting with a staff member, you never know the connections that the staff member has. So that staff member happened to be a former staffer from the city of Long Beach, worked for the city council there. So anytime you can find somebody with a municipal tie in relations and local government, that's a bonus. And we find that fairly often with congressional staff.
So you said Southern California was picked to launch this. Can you talk about the role of the California Alliance for Golf and how much water has played a role into this collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a good question. And so the California Alliance for Golf is a key group for everything that we do in advocacy in California. They're especially active at the state level in Sacramento. And, the California Alliance for Golf brings together all of the various golf groups in the state, in the various chapters and sections and what have you. So, you get the superintendents, the pros, the club managers, and then the golfer associations as well. I mean, the Southern California Golf Association and Craig Kessler and Kevin Fitzgerald and their team have been really a driving force behind the California Alliance for Golf. So, when we do get into things at the state level and dealing with those water issues or, land use related bills, such as the housing bill that came up, multiple years in a row in recent years, or whether it's pesticide and fertilizer issues or labor issues, independent contractor issues, right? Those are all happening at the state level.
Gas powered maintenance vehicles issues.
You got it. Power equipment. I mean, I tell people that, we work a number of different issues in a lot of different states. And in some states, there's things that are happening that are impactful to the industry, but not others. In California, we have all of our issues, right? At least from a GCSAA standpoint. There's nothing that a superintendent does in California that hasn't in recent years been impacted by some, new law or regulation, or at least a proposal. So we can dive into some of those issues as well. But you're right, that is one of the reasons that we targeted California as a great place to start a grassroots advocacy program. So, that's kind of a rundown of where we're at in terms of our participation in the meetings that we've had thus far. So you might ask, okay, well, who am I meeting with? What's happening in these meetings? Well, we've been really fortunate in a lot of these meetings so far to have met with the district director. And you see there on the screen, that column on the right, that's the in-district staff that all members of Congress have. So there's typically a district director, and I added in field staff. They didn't get a little fancy box there, but there's always field staff that work in the office as well, and they're great staff for members to connect with. But district directors are great. They manage the state staff or district staff. They have a direct line to the chief of staff in Washington, D.C., who's kind of like the member of Congress's, right-hand man or woman. So, a district director is a great person to meet with, and nearly all of these meetings have involved a district director. But in some cases, it's also good to connect with the caseworker. And sometimes you'll have a caseworker involved if you're dealing with a particular federal agency that you're trying to resolve something with. So there's two cases in Southern California already. And again, one of them we'll get into with Congresswoman Torres and the involvement of her Veterans Administration caseworker, who, that office has gotten involved via the PGA Hope program. But that's really nice. And we'll talk a lot about the PGA Hope program. But then the other one was also in Carl Van Valier's example at his golf course and what they're dealing with at Buena Vista. So there's some FEMA work that's involved, and Carl Van reached out to Congressman Carvajal's office, who got their FEMA caseworker involved. And so again, whether it's, just sort of whether issue related or relational related, that's all through the district director and field staff. But sometimes you have a specific matter that you got to focus on, and you'll get a caseworker involved there in the district office too. And so, you know, I like to show this slide just to kind of give people perspective of, okay, who are we talking to in these offices? Most of this staff is in Washington, D.C., but over here in the right column, those are always back in the district. So that said, you know, that again, as we kind of talk today, we'll get into more specifics about some of these meetings and the positive aspects we've seen so far. But just one last look at this. You know, there are about 15 districts that remain open in the program, and we want to continue to get those filled as fast as we can. I'm going to show you a map on the next slide. So this is where we have the open districts, and it's kind of hard to see sometimes on these congressional maps. The font's always really small, but you can kind of get a rough idea of where those open districts are. So if you find yourself in one of those districts and in one of those cities that's needing, you know, an advocate to step up and work with that congressional office, we'd love to have you. We mentioned getting new members of Congress, so that's going to be the case in districts 29, 30, 31, and 47. There's no incumbent running for re-election in those districts. Two of those, you know, were running for Senate. That's Schiff and Porter. Of course, Porter didn't make it to the end here, and Schiff did, but neither one of them will have their House seat next year. So you have a new member of Congress in those two districts. Then the one you mentioned, John, where Congresswoman Napolitano is not running for re-election. And I think it was also true in the 29th district with Congressman Cardenas is not running for re-election. So certainly 4 brand new members of Congress in Southern California, and possibly more if you have an incumbent lose a race in just a couple weeks here.
Michael, how many meetings have taken place? You mentioned 15 districts represented.
Yeah, by my count and talking with Matt Rogers, there's been about 8 meetings. Maybe I'm missing 1 or 2 in there, but generally there's been about 8.
Thank you. So obviously we're still looking for more advocates. I mean, there's 14 districts that aren't represented.
We are. Yeah, it'd be great to get that roster full. I'll go back to the previous slide so that we have, you know, a Southern Cal PGA member identified and active in the program in every single one of those districts. I'd love to be able to get rid of all the blue lines and just have, you know, names in all of those so that we have a great, you know, PGA pro in every single district that can reach out to a congressional office and do well. I want to get into these examples, especially with what we saw with Congresswoman Torres. So, you know, there's a lot of things that you can cover in your outreach, but I think what we're seeing initially is that the PGA Hope program is really resonating with members of Congress. So we're going to dive into the meeting that Tony had with Congresswoman Torres and some of her comments about the PGA Hope program and how valuable it is. Now, if it's okay to tee that up, John, I did want to also plug that, you know, as the PGA is growing in the advocacy space, they dedicated their September issue of PGA Magazine to advocacy specifically. And so there's a nice opening message in there from PGA President John Leonard, 35-year PGA member from the Country Club of Lansing. And he had this quote in there that I wanted to share. He said, "While the positive impact of the game transcends many business sectors, one of the most critical components to ensure the future of the game is healthy and vibrant. It is a dedicated and well choreographed approach to government advocacy and lobbying." And what I want to highlight there is dedicated and well organized, well choreographed approach. That's really what this program is all about. So that we're not scattershot or just sort of doing one-off outreaches. That's really hard to build a unified message when it's not all happening in a coordinated way. So with the grassroots program like the one that we've now established with the Southern Cal section, we can have multiple members reaching out to multiple different offices, but all with the same message. And that's really key when you want to have an impact in Congress. There's so many players, right? I mean, Congress has 535 voting members between the House and the Senate. It's critical that as many of them as possible are receiving the same message from your association or your industry. So that's what we're able to do in an organized, choreographed approach, as John Leonard puts it in his note. There's also a featured piece on advocacy, and I pulled one of the graphics off of that, in which they identify sort of the top 10 important aspects to golf advocacy. If I could share just a few of those with you, John. So the ones I took away were that this gives the golf industry a voice, right? When you're involved in advocacy, your industry or your association has a voice. And then quite literally, I mean, it's a message that's well thought out and hopefully easy to communicate, especially if you're new to advocacy. We want to make this easy so that anybody can jump in and have the confidence that, like, okay, what am I doing? Why am I meeting with this congressional office? What am I going to say to them? We try to make that all clear and turnkey. So it's sort of what we've done through our training already this year, but it's what we'll continue to do with updated messaging, handouts and one-pagers that you can use, that sort of thing. But the other thing that's also conveyed there is a constant presence. So I'll say it again, this is about relationship building. You want to become relevant for that congressional office, and then you want to stay relevant. You want to be a familiar face and name in the district. So that's what a coordinated grassroots approach is all about.
Well, when you're building the relationships, they know who you are, they know who we are. And it's the same philosophy that, at a golf course, the food is always better when you know the chef. The concerns of the golf industry is so much more relevant to the politicians if they know who we are. It's easy to disregard someone that you don't know at all. So it's the same thing with the food's always better when you know the chef. The greens are always faster when you know the superintendent. The golf operation is always a smoother run operation when you know the pro. And it's because of the relationship that exists, not because of the actual meat and potatoes of the operation.
Yeah, you got it. I mean, and none of this is like rocket science when it comes to advocacy, but a lot of people sometimes do miss the importance of the relationship aspect, and they're more transactional about things. But that's transactional is not a great way to be in government affairs and in advocacy. You really want to strive for that relationship. The other thing that's kind of key about all this is in the golf industry, we're sort of segmented by a number of different associations at the national level, right? So when we have a coordinated grassroots program, it's easier to coordinate between associations as well. That's really the focus of what we do in National Golf Day, where we bring everyone together. But it's my opinion, I think that ought to happen at the state and district level year round as well. So that's another benefit to sort of building an advocacy program like this. At the end of the day, it takes everyone, golf pros, superintendents, general managers, really the golfers themselves as well, to contribute to the health of a golf facility. So we depend on all those parts working together in advocacy. And finally, educating lawmakers on the positive impacts of golf and what golf courses do for communities. That's what this is all about. You don't have to be a policy expert or anything like that. You really just want to be able to convey everything, all the positive aspects that your golf course is contributing to its local community. That's especially important for lawmakers who are not golfers, for them to understand and really think about all these benefits they might not otherwise. But benefits of from a PGA professional perspective, right? Benefits of learning the game, doing something difficult and trying to get better at it, right? That's certainly the case with golf. The importance of practice and focus, attention to detail. Those are all really critical, life lessons that people learn through golf and that are taught, through PGA professionals. So that's one positive aspect. But then when you kind of bring in the rest of the golf industry, we can also talk about all the environmental benefits that golf courses bring, and superintendents are great at honing in on that aspect. But you also have a sort of the charitable and philanthropic piece too. And that's where we get into PGA Hope. PGA Hope's a great example of the way the industry is giving back to the community and connecting with veterans to help them address some of the rehabilitative needs that they may have. And so, that brings in the game the mental and physical and social aspects and benefits of the game. These are all great things for veterans and non-veterans as well. John, in putting this presentation together, I started thinking about my dad who recently retired and was kind of feeling lost in retirement, right? Like just weird sort of adjusting to not being around an office or colleagues or what have you, and was starting to honestly get like a little bit depressed. And so he had a buddy call him up and say, "Hey, do you play golf? You want to come out with me sometime?" My dad said, "Well, it's been, a couple of decades since I picked up a club, but yeah, sure." They go out for a round. They've been going out for a round every week since that day. I don't know, this was probably 5 or 6 months ago. And it's just been, I've seen a complete turnaround in my dad. I mean, his energy level's better, his attitude's better. He's getting outside. He's getting back to doing something that he used to love and just kind of had dropped somewhere along the way. But golf has the ability to do that. So, it's great. It's great for so many people, regardless of age. And that's something that we talk about all the time in the golf industry. So if it's all right, John, we'll jump into to Congresswoman Torres's visit to Los Serranos and the meeting hosted by Tony Chavez. So I'm not really sure the best place to start. Tony gave us a great video that I want to be able to share. How about we just start with that? Because I think he probably
let's play it.
I haven't seen the whole thing, but I'm sure he does a pretty good job talking about the meeting. So let me get this pulled up and see if this is going to work. All right.
Okay, one of our main objectives was to highlight. Hello, John, and hello, fellow professionals. This is Tony Chavez, Director of Golf here at Los Serranos Country Club in Chino Hills, California. Thank you for the opportunity to be.
John, are you seeing that video okay?
Yeah, well, the thing is, I don't think we necessarily even need to see it as long as we could hear him. If we can see it, great. If not, the audio is the most important thing.
Great. Let's go with it.
Part of this Catalyst call, and thank you for the opportunity to share my experiences with PGA Hope. As part of the National Golf Day, one of the main objectives was to highlight to our local lawmakers the role that golf courses play as stewards of the game, as stewards of the environment, as local businesses that employ a large amount of people, and as a safe environment for everybody to practice the sport of golf. National Golf Day Task Force was just that, try to bring awareness to our local lawmakers at a state level or at the national level. Our local Congresswoman, Norma Torres, sent her staff to our facility to kind of do a walkthrough of what Los Serranos was all about. And one of the things that that came out of that visit was that Los Serranos was hosting PGA Hope programs, serving the veteran community. And Congresswoman Torres, her son, is a member of the armed forces. Her son serves in the United States Air Force, and so that struck a chord. With her. That was a program that resonated with her. So she couldn't help but to find out for herself. So she planned a visit this past month of July, and it all happened during a PGA Hope class, where 5 members of the veteran community were taking their first class in golf, their first class PGA Hope program. We also had members of the PGA Hope team that represented Southern California in the Secretary's Cup last month of May. And so it was just really nice gathering, a great opportunity to share for our veterans to share their experiences and their and that they were really looking forward to learn golf. some of you may know that here in the Inland Empire, we have a large veteran community, and programs such as PJ Hope, bring an outlet to our veteran community. I heard this, and I don't know where this quote originated, but I heard that PJ Hope is the only program that saves lives. So I encourage my fellow professionals that get certified with PJ Hope to host a program to, share the word that, this program has such an impact in the lives of our veterans who have given it all to our country. Man, if you like to know more about PJ Hope and what it's done for me personally, I'm just about one phone call away here at Los Aranos Country Club, where you can come and visit during a class. We're planning to host 9 sessions next year. So we're going to be very involved again. And I can't thank our management and our ownership for the opportunity to give back to the veteran community. If you want to learn more about certification, you can reach out to me or reach out or PJ Hope lead James Davenport at the section office. John, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you, fellow PGA professionals, and I hope you all have a great day.
Thank you, Michael, for playing that. Tony is such an inspiration on so many levels. The efforts that he's put in with PJ Hope, the relationship he's building with Congresswoman Torres. He's also in cohort 10 of the PGA Lead program, representing Southern California on a national level. And a lot of people don't know this about Tony. He works in Chino, but he lives in Indio, and he makes that drive every day. He is a soldier for selflessness and an inspiration to us all. I know he couldn't join us this morning, and shame on me for reaching out to him so late to get him involved in this webinar, but he is an amazing PGA pro. And if you don't know Tony, get to know him. What he's doing at Los Serranos is truly special on several different levels. Thanks for playing that, Michael.
Yeah, that's so cool to hear. John, thanks for those words about Tony. And I don't know if you were able to see the video or not, but yeah, certainly appreciate Tony submitting that. I've got a few more slides here that I wanted to show related to this visit, and I know we've got Nikki Gatch on the line as well, who was present and said that she'd be happy to share her experience with it as well. But I think the kind of the point that I wanted to make here was that, sometimes when you request one of these meetings with a congressional office, it doesn't have to be issue-based. It doesn't have to be about water or independent contractors or, anything like that. It can just be educational about a way in which your association is giving back in their district. They love to hear those kinds of things, and they especially love to hear them when it comes to veterans, because they are a population that we all do need to serve because they have given it all for the country. And in Congresswoman Torres's case, I believe her son is currently serving in the Air Force. So it's something that's near and dear to her heart. I'm going to play this video. I think you should be able to see and hear it, but here were her thoughts after visiting the golf club and learning more about PGA Hope.
Of PGA here for Hope for veterans. It's amazing what they're doing, reaching out to our community, ensuring that our veterans have a way to be able to be involved and be able to socialize with other veterans who may be going through, some issues of their own, PTSD or whatever other injuries that they may be healing from. So PGA Golf is really helping them with hope and unity.
Yeah, so pretty cool to get her feedback as well. And it's not that she's going to walk away knowing every last thing about PGA Hope and all the successes and the real help that it is, but at least she had an experience that's going to stick with her, right? she got the grasp of it. She understands that the Southern Cal PGA is putting this program on and helping veterans at the local level. And that's good. That's a real connection point for her. So she got to meet some of the participants. Her office put together a great certification for those involved in the program and those participating in the Secretary's Cup. So I guess this would be a good spot. Nikki, if you want to jump in and just talk about your experience with the Congresswoman and her staff there at the event.
Sure. Thanks, Michael. Morning, everybody. I did attend that day, which was really special, but I think it's important also to point out that we had previous meetings with Congresswoman Torres's staff. As Michael pointed out, that usually, might be the case, maybe with the first meeting. I don't remember their exact roles, but probably the district director. We met at Los Serranos. We met with Brian, the general manager there at the club, myself, Matt Rogers, and we really just shared who we are and what we do as the Southern California PGA and PGA members. And then, obviously PGA Hope was one of those programs that we talked about, and that really resonated. And from there, it was, okay, let's get Congresswoman Torres out here to see action. So that's sort of the backstory of how we came about on that particular day. And now, she's been wonderful. I know she's met with Matt Rogers as well, following up with that. She's trying to help us identify community grants that we could potentially be eligible for that would increase funding for PGA Hope so that we can do more. So it's kind of snowballed into that. To Michael's point, she may not know or remember everything we told her about who we are and what we do, but this one thing resonated, and I feel very, very confident that if we got to the point where there was a bill that might adversely affect our industry, we could go to her and say, we really need you to vote against this, and this is why. Again, I feel really confident that we would have her support because she sees all the great things that PGA does. So it was really special, and I just want to reiterate that it is sort of uncharted territory for PGA professionals, myself included, right? But again, we're not having to talk about bill numbers and legislation. We're just talking about what we do on a day-to-day basis and how great golf is and the impact that it has in our community. That's easy stuff. And the whole relationship thing that Michael's been talking about, that's what PGA professionals do best. So this really is a great program. I'm excited. We're obviously going to continue this. The goal would be to spread this across the country, just like the GCSAA has done, and have 500 plus ambassadors. So it takes time, and we'll continue making this a priority and growing this program. So I encourage you, if any of this interests you and you want to get involved, please reach out to me and we can start the process with you. Thanks, Michael.
Oh, that's great, Nikki. You hit the nail on the head. And one question for you, because I ran across this one just doing a little bit of research about PGA Hope. So PGA of America has a memorandum of understanding with the Veterans Administration. And then I found this, it looks like maybe there's also a local MOU. This is from the Carolinas section, where they've established a local MOU with the Ralph Johnson VA healthcare system there locally. I love this quote that was from this piece. And this piece, by the way, this is on the VA's website. So this is something that the VA is like proudly promoting. They love this program, I think, as much as the PGA does. What an awesome opportunity. But do you know, Nikki, do you have a local MOU with the regional VA office or not? And certainly I don't think it's absolutely necessary, but at least in this case, it's created a nice pipeline where really, they're encouraging this with their local veteran population. Hey, get involved in this PGA Hope program. This will be good for you. Do you have that?
I don't know if we have a formal MOU, but we do have relationships. And then especially with our PGA Hope ambassador and now our PGA Hope staff member, James Davenport, who is a veteran himself. So that has really, helped. I know, forgive me for not knowing the exact name of the grant, but we did receive a grant this year that allowed us to conduct a PGA Hope Cup at Arrowwood in Oceanside, and it was open to all of our graduates of PGA Hope, their PGA professionals. It was just a fun day to get everyone together, for them to further network with each other, enjoy the game, spend the day with a PGA professional. It was really wonderful. So we weren't able to do that and do that at no cost to the veterans without this grant. So we do have some balls in motion. Again, I believe this falls in line with some of the things that Congresswoman Torres is trying to help us navigate as well.
Well, that's just it. You know, I think it's really critical for members of Congress to be aware of these types of partnerships. And they like to hear about the ways in which federal agencies are partnering with associations or different groups in their district. I mean, after all, Congress has oversight of those agencies, of their budget, of their scope of work. And I know that they like to see federal agencies looking for partnership opportunities to better serve constituents in their districts. And that's precisely what we have here in the PGA Hope program. So great for someone like Congresswoman Torres to hear more about it. And I think it's going to be great for all members of Congress to learn more about it. It's certainly not a program. I mean, I work in the golf industry and I wasn't all that familiar with it before starting to do some of this work. So, I mean, it's a great story to tell, and I just can't encourage it enough. On your website, you know, you show the clubs and courses that are currently involved. Impressive list there, and yeah, would love to see that grow as well.
Well, another benefit of growing these relationships, especially in terms of access to government agencies, and I know he wasn't able to join us this morning, is Carl's story at Buenaventura Golf Course, where they had, you know, from the rains we had last year, massive flooding disasters, and the golf course actually currently is still closed. And Nikki or Michael, I think Nikki, you know more about that story and what Carl has done in terms of reaching out to his congressperson to get support for the cleanup efforts and support from FEMA at what happened at Buenaventura Golf Course.
Yeah, I'll speak in, and then Michael, please chime in with what you know as well. I know Carl Van had a really, really difficult time trying to get assistance through FEMA. This kind of all goes back to that sin tax. Michael, you could probably quote the name of the law that is, but basically, you know, golf with any sort of natural disaster, golf is categorized with massage parlors, gambling halls, etc. So you don't get relief from FEMA. That is something that we're trying to fight and get that changed for obvious reasons. So Carl Van really had a difficult time, and the city had a difficult time. I think when this program initiated, you know, Carl Van raised his hand, said, "I want to be involved." That led to some additional support and getting in touch with his congressperson and you know, got the ball rolling, so to speak. And I know he is now working closely with FEMA. I'm not sure what the actual outcome is. Like John mentioned, that, you know, the golf course is still closed. I mean, it's a city-owned property, and it's been closed for over a year. So, Michael, I don't know if you have any further update on that.
Yeah, the only sort of details I would add there, yeah, and it was the result of a you know, big flood event there in the Ventura area. A tremendous amount of mud and silt covered the golf course. There's some pretty good news stories out there if you do a Google search on it. Aerial shots from drones or something that kind of demonstrate the expansive nature of the damage at the course. My understanding is remediation work has been going on. They are getting closer to getting the golf course back open, but it's still closed. There was a role for FEMA to play, I think, in helping remove some of the debris and mud and silt that's been cleared, but still has to sort of go somewhere. And Carl Van had really hit a roadblock with FEMA. Of course, the city's involved. But again, one of the benefits of building a relationship with the congressional office is when you get them involved with the federal agency, sending letters to the agency on your behalf, describing your issue and the help that they're needing from that agency, things start happening a little more quickly. And it goes back to that oversight piece, right? Congress they control the budgets of all of these agencies. And again, their scope of work, their programs, things they focus on. So anytime a member of Congress starts reaching out to the agency, you see things start to happen a little bit quicker. And that's part of the constituent services that congressional offices offer. So Congressman Carvajal's FEMA caseworker was involved and has been out to Buenaventura to meet with Carl Van and the staff there about what they need to see happen and what they need help with via FEMA. So that's the latest that I know. There's probably some more details in there that Carl Van could share, but I think we're hoping that, FEMA gets in motion. They get their differences resolved on, I don't know if it's a payment issue or what, but that you can get the golf course back open. And I think that Congressman Carvajal's office is going to have something to do with that. And I think they're going to be helpful. So those are two very different examples from Los Serranos and the PGA Hope program to what Carl Van's dealing with and a federal agency in FEMA that's sort of hard to get them to cooperate sometimes. There are two, huge benefits to being involved in advocacy, and they're not even a part of the legislative component and the issues that we so often deal with. So John, if we could, just a couple more slides here. I want to return to that piece that was in PGA Magazine in September. Incoming PGA president Don Reyes, somebody that's been involved in advocacy for a long time, always coming to National Golf Day. He's at Augusta Ranch Golf Club in Mesa, Arizona. John, you mentioned the water issue. I mean, Arizona is top of the list when it comes to concerns over water and water availability and golf course use of water, et cetera. But Don's been a great advocate on that issue and others. And he had this quote in the article about hosting Congressman Andy Biggs at his golf course. He said, the congressman, got to see that we're just a small business. We're not a big fancy club, and we employ a lot of his constituents. He and his staff got a better understanding of what golf brings to the community. We're not playing for millions on the weekends. We're helping millions enjoy the game. We're down in the dirt planting seeds with new golfers, and that's information they'll have when making decisions in the future. I mean, that's exactly right. And if you know Don, he's good with words. So I love that. Not playing for millions on the weekends, but helping millions enjoy the game. I mean, that's spot on. And it goes to what Nikki said about the next time that member of Congress has the vote one way or another, or make a decision on an issue or a bill. If they've been out to your golf course, you've had a positive interaction with them that's kind of stuck with them, your chances of them representing your interest are far better than if there were no relationship at all. And so that's precisely what this program is about. Appreciate Don's support of the program very much. Excited to see where it goes under his tenure as president.
And a quick question here, Michael. For all the PGA members that are on this morning's webcast, they want to get involved. What's the best way for them to get involved? Who do they contact?
Yeah, I mean, they're in Southern California. Matt Rogers has been a tremendous help to the program. He's a great asset for the section there, and he's been the tip of the spear. I know that he's helped a lot of the members who have gotten involved set up those initial meetings. Matt's been in attendance at most, if not all of those meetings. And as he said to me, he said, yeah, he puts in a lot of legwork sort of before and after, getting ready for the meeting and the follow-up after. But once you got the meeting going, he said the members have been great at just taking ownership of it, doing a lot of the talking, and conveying those positive messages that we want to get across to congressional offices. So, they're in Southern California. Matt Rogers is certainly the guy. Now, as you mentioned, I think he's out on a bit of family leave currently. And so, I want to make myself available, and I've got my contact information on the last slide. I want to be as much help as I can in his absence. But Nikki's been great as well. Nikki knows what the program's all about. She's been involved in everything from the start too. So I think your staff there locally at the section, as well as myself, we want to be as much help as we can.
Yeah, Matt Rogers has been a tremendous resource. He was our PGA Works fellow, and now he's a foundation manager for the section. So tremendous resource there. Thank you.
Well, John, just a couple more slides in closing. This handout was put together. It's a front and back pager, something the PGA of America put together. And I think maybe the section was working on a sort of similar local one pager as well. I'm not sure, but you know, at the end of the day, the program is all about educating lawmakers on who the National Association is, and also who the section is, and how we work as a group in the golf industry. We coordinate on all of these advocacy efforts, and so you know, it's this type of one pager that we encourage advocates to leave behind in these meetings, so that you don't have to try to regurgitate all this. You can leave some information with the member of Congress or their staff. So that's kind of what I had slide-wise, John. We've got a few minutes if you've got any other questions.
Well, what has been your biggest challenge in this collaboration and partnership thus far?
You know, not a lot of tremendous challenges. Again, the Southern California PGA has been all in on it and very supportive. I would say, you know, maybe the biggest challenge in doing any of this is just the scheduling aspect. You know, the PGA professionals have busy, crazy schedules with all that you do, morning to night at the golf course, maybe at multiple golf courses. Members of Congress have crazy schedules coming and going from Washington, D.C., trying to get around all of their various meetings and engagements and events within the congressional district when they are back home. So getting schedules aligned can be kind of difficult, but I know that's frustrating kind of for everyone involved, but just stick with it. You know, there's at this point, not any sort of like hard deadline that we're trying to meet. In fact, you know, we're up against the elections. Not a lot's going to happen between now and the end of the year, legislatively, certainly. You do find members of Congress out in the district, you know, looking for opportunities because they're on the campaign trail. But, you know, going into the new Congress in January, you know, get that meeting request or that invite into the office for them to come out anytime. And sure, it's good to put a time frame on it. Hey, we'd love to meet in the first quarter of 2025 type of deal. But flexibility is key when trying to align schedules. I'd say that's kind of what I've heard from PGA members thus far, is that, you know, scheduling can be difficult, but not impossible.
Well, it's so significant and relevant in the state of California with electric maintenance vehicles and those policies that are coming on board, water restrictions, labor restrictions. It's important for us to be active in growing those relationships and having that voice. On behalf of the Education Committee for the Southern California PGA, I want to thank Michael Lee from the Government Affairs, Senior Manager of Government Affairs for the Golf Course Superintendents Association of America, for joining us this morning. I also want to let all the PGA members on this morning's webcast know that you earned 1 PDR credit for joining us this morning. And just a reminder that there will be no Catalyst the first Thursday in November due to the PGA National Meeting in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We will be webcasting again on November 21st with Randy Chang and Jamie Mulligan, who are going to summarize the California Teaching and Coaching Summit that we just had this last week at the Grand in San Diego, and talk a little bit about the 2025 CTCS at Pechanga. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Nikki, thanks for chiming in, and we appreciate the support. And for all the PGA members, thank you very much for supporting the Catalyst. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks, John.